all started on a September day in Canton, Ohio. It was 1920. The 20s had yet to roar. A simple meeting where like-minded men were coming together in unity with a vision to see football flourish.
Settle down, fellas, settle down. We're all sweating here for a reason, and it's a damn good one, Jimmy. You Muncie Flyers, Hammond Pros, and even you Cardinals all have a chance to be a part of this new league. Thorpe, what are we calling this thing?
Gentlemen, you're all invited to be a part of the American Professional Football Association.
Thorpe, old boy, I like the sound of that.
So who's heading up this crazy thing?
Well, who else? The greatest athlete the world has ever seen. Jim Thorpe is our man. Thorpe will be our president. Okay, let's fill out these applications and make sure everybody gets one, okay?
I want you guys to take a look at this.
Prohibition legislation, which has been recently enacted, is causing Americans coast to coast.
This was a time when he was just George Halas, not Papa Bear, because there weren't any Bears, just Staleys. And they weren't even from Chicago. The Staleys were from Decatur, Illinois. And who better to head up the formation of the NFL than one of football's greatest legends, Jim Thorpe.
Hey, Thorpe, how much is it going to cost us to organize this new league?
Hey, Jim, how about it? How much, huh? I'll tell you what, mister. I motion $100 per member.
Don't waste your dough, boys. Invest in something that's gonna last.
Get out of here, you dopey kid. What do you know? Anyway, is it yay for the 100 or is it nay?
For $100 would they take part? They had no idea the power of that $100 investment. And legend has it that not a single owner ever paid a dime of that membership fee.
Come on, it's only $100.
I want to see a show of hands.
Yes! Motion is carried, even without the Green Bay Packers.
I guess Curly Lambeau couldn't afford the trip, huh?
It's Lambeau.
Whatever.
All right, team owners, let's set up some new guidelines and rules.
Boys, I got the feeling this is the start of something pretty damn good.
I think you're right, George.
78 years ago in a car dealership, visionary men established the greatest league for the greatest sport in the world and provided a stage for supermen. And with guts, determination, and the will to survive, this stage would eventually be called Super Bowl Sunday.
I played football with the Canton Bulldogs.
I don't care whether the game meant nothing. Didn't mean a thing. To me, I had to play as hard as I could play.
Unless a man believes in himself and makes a total commitment to his career and puts everything he has into it, his mind, his body, and his heart, what's life worth to him?
The greatest thing about it is they can never say you can't win the big one. Win the big one. Can't win the big one.
From the Pro Football Hall of Fame, located in Canton, Ohio, it's the Outback Steakhouse All Madden All Millenium Team.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Summerall here, as usual, with John Madden. Now, John, what a day we've got coming up. First of all, we're at the Hall of Fame, and then later on today, Super Bowl 33.
Yep, you can't beat that. I mean, that is what you call a football doubleheader.
John, I've heard of the All Madden team. What is this All Millennium Team?
Well, you know, we do the All Madden team every year, and you think, well, you know, year after year we'll do that. And then someone said, you know, it's the end of a millennium. That means 1,000 years. So you think, it's the end of a 1,000-year period. We better do something special. So we went back and we looked at all the players that ever played pro football. And we realized that that's the foundation for the game today. That if it weren't for these people, we don't know where any of us would be today or what we'd be doing. So we said, let's go back and get the players that have played and put them, the best players, on a team. And that's it.
What about rules?
Well, we only have one rule, that there's no active players, which makes for an interesting scenario. Now, at the end of this show, we're going to have the All Millennium Team. In other words, all these guys that have ever played the game, the best of all these guys, and they're going to play the 1998 All Madden team. Pretty good, huh?
It's the ultimate All Madden team. We're going back to the earliest days of the NFL to assemble the greatest cast of football warriors ever.
I got more pleasure out of it than beating the damn defense.
We'll catch up with some of the game's toughest characters.
Boom, boom. It was about shaking you up. Boom, boom, boom.
We linebackers dream about those kind of shots.
Every time I go out and speak, somebody will say, I saw Brian's home last night.
What was it like to play for Vince Lombardi? Some of his Packers will tell us.
He said there are trains and planes and buses leaving Green Bay every day. Some of you may be on them.
Finally, the past meets the present. Our guys are fired up for the millennium, and we're celebrating with the first ever All-Madden scrimmage. That's all coming up on the Outback Steakhouse All-Madden All Millenium Team.
Back in the early days, there wasn't a lot of passing in pro football. It was mostly a kicking and running game.
Well, if you look at the football was almost round. How would you pass this thing anyway? So the best thing to do is just be either lug it or kick it. Plus, in the early days, the rules really discouraged passing.
You know, back in the 20s, college football was the game, the big game. Pro football wasn't that popular.
Then along came a great athlete by the name of Jim Thorpe. And when he came into professional football, that changed everything. So he's going to be the first guy we put on our All-Millennium team.
He was in the inaugural class of the Hall of Fame and was also the league's first president.
Ladies and gentlemen, a special guest, the greatest all-around sports performer of all time. I'm referring to the former New York Giants baseball player, the All-America footballer, the great Olympic star, Big Jim Thorpe.
Jim probably was an athletic mutation because he was a person that was blessed with unusual speed, agility, and power.
They put on an exhibition, and John Levi stood on one goal line, and Dad stood on the other goal line, and they were kicking and passing 100 yards in the air, back and forth. It was in newspapers, and I've met people that were there, had seen it.
Dwight Eisenhower was playing with West Point, and he made the statement after the game that he'd never play football again after he tackled Jim Thorpe. That was the end of football as far as he was concerned.
Rockney was just getting into pro ball, and Dad was in his last years of pro ball. Dad would be running, and Rockney would tackle him and get him down.
Attaboy, Rock. I said, you're doing fine, but I said, look at the people come up here to see old Jim run. How about letting old Jim run? And he said, well, if you think you can get away with that, he said, I'd like to see it. So the next time I carried the ball around, I hit him in the side of the head with my knee, spin it off for a 60-yard touchdown. Here come Rock with a player under each arm, all wetted down with a sponge, and I walked up and patted him on the shoulder. I said, attaboy, Rock, you let old Jim run, didn't you?
Thank you very much. Sports fans, our guest tonight has been the greatest all-around athlete of all time, Jim Thorpe.
John, you know, when Red Grange left the University of Illinois in 1925, he was just as big a star in this country as Babe Ruth.
Yeah, and then he went to the Chicago Bears, and the crowd started coming out. They went on a tour, and they had 70,000 people in Los Angeles, 70,000 people in New York. Those were really the first big crowds for professional football, all coming to see the Galloping Ghost. You know, on my bus, I carry a picture of Red Grange, and I've always wanted to say, Red Grange, the Galloping Ghost on the All-Madden team.
Well, in 1930, Grange got a new teammate.
And that was a great player with a great name, Bronco Nagurski. I think when I think back to the guys that started this game and what football is all about and what toughness is all about, the name Bronco Nagurski kind of says it all. He was a charter member of the Hall of Fame, and he still has the biggest ring they ever made, size 19.5.
That ring looks like a helmet.
He stood 6'2", 225 pounds, which was huge for a fullback in 1930. Nagurski was a mythic sports figure of Paul Bunyan-like proportion. His strength and power provided the material of legend, but not the answer of how he came to be known as Bronco.
My father was actually christened Bronislaw Nagurski. Bronislaw was a very common Ukrainian name. That was a long, difficult name for his schoolmates to call him, and so they started to call him Bronco.
Well, Doc Spears was quite a well-known coach at that time at the University of Minnesota, and he was on a recruiting trip to northern Minnesota coming up to see another potential athlete. So he was trying to find this individual, so he stopped. He saw this young man out there plowing the field, and he stopped and asked him directions as to where to find this individual. And my father was plowing without a horse, and he stopped and picked up the plow and pointed in that direction and said that's where he'd find him. And Doc Spears figured he better recruit this kid, and he forgot about the other guy. Back in the late 30s or early 40s, I believe it was, Wheaties started to use athletes on the box, and my father was one of those, the first that was chosen. I can remember that he was paid $50 and we received a case of Wheaties, and that was what he earned for being on the box of Wheaties. His wrestling career, I believe, started about 1932. He became a marquee name. They were drawing the crowds, which is what it was all about. In the late 30s, he became a wrestling champion and was champion for 5 years.
Although wrestling paid better, it was always football which provided Bronco with his greatest sense of achievement. His football exploits left an indelible mark on the game.
Red Grange had made the comment that tackling Bronco was like an electric shock. If you tackled him above the ankles, you might get killed. Well, of course, the Bears played in Wrigley Field for many, many years, and it was very tight when they got the football field in. It wasn't uncommon for somebody to come barreling through the end zone with their head down, and that seemed to be a running style that he had.
He hit that line so hard that he broke through and ran into the concrete wall in the dugout and cracked it.
He said, my golly, that last guy really nailed me hard.
Hole number 3 there was more feared as a blocker than he was as a runner.
Well, you know, he was just the feared type of guy. I mean, Bronco Nagurski. And it's kind of ironic that he kind of started the passing in professional football. In the 32 championship game, they used to have a rule then that you had to be 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage to pass the ball. Old Bronco runs up and throws a jump pass for a touchdown, and the Bears win the championship. Then the owners thought, hey, the fans went crazy on this one. They like passing. So then pro football kind of became a passing game. The first 2 great passers were Sid Luckman and Sammy Baugh.
Luckman still shares the NFL record of 7 TD passes in a game, while Sammy Baugh led the NFL in passing, punting, and interceptions in 1943. We'll take you to Slingin' Sammy's Ranch when we come back.
I love football. I've played a lot of 60-minute games, and a lot of people did. No one thought anything about it. That's the way football was played back in the day.
60-minute man, 60-minute man.
In 1943, Sammy had what some call the greatest single season any player has ever had. He led the NFL in passing, interceptions, and punting.
They didn't have special teams, the people who were starting. They were on every team there was. They did it all.
Sammy Baugh's passing style, along with his charisma, made him a star. More than just a player, Slingin' Sammy was an attraction.
60-minute man.
They had some terrible rules. You could hit the quarterback after you threw the ball. The man with the ball may be 75 yards down the field, and you're back up here 25 fighting for your life before men trying to put you down. And I never will forget in the championship game, my first year, playing Chicago, their home field. It was an icy field, the worst field I ever played on. They got where every time you hit the ground, God, you come away, you'd be bleeding. I never saw as much blood in a football game as I did after that game. Everybody was bleeding.
Baugh and Sid Luckman revolutionized the game. The passing game we see today began with those two and the advent of the T formation.
Nobody was playing the T. Everybody was single wing or double wing spread. When everybody went to the T, We didn't have a man on our team who'd ever been on T formation. I love football. I watch it as much as I can. What I liked most about it was beating the damn defense. I got more fun out of that. I got more pleasure out of it is beating the damn defense. I love these ball players this day and time. They've got a better game than we have. I wish I was playing. I wish I was young enough to play it this day and time. I'd love to have played it in these days because it's a great game now.
Sammy Ball would have loved to be in Miami today.
And you kind of like that, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, I think that to be a champion, you have to have great quarterbacking. And one thing about our team, all of these quarterbacks won championships.
Bobby Lane won 2 championships and was one of the last to forego a face mask.
Oh, he's a character. I tell you what, he liked to have a good time. He had such a quick release. Sometimes you didn't get a chance to hit him, but he could let that ball go. Oh, he'd chew him out on the field. You could hear him holler at him if something happened. He just took command out there. Heck of a guy and heck of a quarterback.
Otto Graham's Browns won a record 10 titles in 10 years.
Otto had great peripheral vision in throwing the ball. He'd be looking over here and throw the ball over there. And he had that throwing arm where he just lay it out there. Otto just laid it out and let it roll.
He was a 9th-round draft choice, but Johnny Unitas led the Colts to 3 titles.
The thing I remember about Johnny Unitas is that he had a clock in his head. I think that he was the one that made the 2-minute drill famous. And the other thing about John Unitas, he would stay in the pocket and he would wait till the last possible instant to release the ball.
30 years ago, Joe Willie Namath put the Super in Super Bowl.
The thing I enjoyed about Namath, he understood all the patterns. He knew who everybody was.
Joe was a guy that had the great arm, he had the great strength, he was smart as could be. His main thing was timing, and we had one busted play between us and Joe in 8 years.
Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls and was named MVP twice.
Terry likes to put pressure on himself. You know, I used to say if you're going to be a good quarterback, you have to be a thespian. And of course, he had exceptional talent. You know, he called the plays for us. In our last 2 Super Bowls, it were big plays that Terry and John Stallworth and Lynn Swann were able to make.
Joe Montana also won 4 rings, along with 3 MVPs.
Joe was the ultimate player for our system and for our organization. And to me, the greatest player I have seen. Joe could do everything. He could do it week in and week out. But more importantly, he had tremendous instincts on the field. That was the difference between Joe and other people who played the game.
We'll return with the defensive line next.
Sack was a one-word explanation of what we did. But see,
Welcome back to the Outback Steakhouse All Madden All Millenium Team. And John, now it's time to pick the defensive line.
You know, in football, there's always been a lot of great nicknames for individuals. But one of the first nicknames for a group was the Fearsome Foursome of the Los Angeles Rams. So I thought, all Millennium, we need some Fearsome Foursome, but we can't take all the Fearsome Foursome. Let's take twosome of the Fearsome Foursome. So we're going to take twosome, and those twosome is going to be Merlin Olsen and Deacon Jones.
Merlin Olsen was named to the Pro Bowl a record 14 straight times. His teammate, Deacon Jones, a 14th-round pick, coined the term sack.
They used to refer to tackling the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage. Just like that. Now, that you can't put that in no headline. So what we needed at that time was some way to identify what we did. I sat down one day and said, well, we need a word. Sack, to me, was like putting all the offensive linemen into a bag and taking a baseball bat, just beating on the bag, you know? You lock them in, you put them all together, sack them, bail them up, get rid of them. Sack was a one-word explanation of what we did. But see, we're the only ones out there can decide the quarterback's fate. If I break through on the first play of the game and hit your quarterback across his face mask with my forearm and knock him cold, You kill the head of a snake, the body dies. Am I right? I told you when I was an offensive tackle, I played against that Ernie Stoutner, man. And Stoutner, as I said, used to tape his hands all the way up here. He was the first guy I saw use the head slap. My first blow is straight to your head. Boom, boom. And it's just like a right hand from Sonny Liston. Boom, boom, boom. You have a tendency to blank your eyes. You understand? And when you blank your eyes with me, you ain't gonna see nothing but air when you open them. And that's what the head slap was about. It was about shaking you up both mentally and physically. And that move was the foundation of my whole game. But I've gotten more publicity out of it since the league outlawed it.
Born in Italy, Leo Nomellini was a two-way player who never missed a game in his career, while German-born Ernie Stoutner was considered too small for the defensive line.
I was small for where I played, and I considered it a challenge. And I made sure that I had some weapons to help me get through it. I just made up my mind I was going to attack. And I didn't care how big they were, and I was going to get to their head. The head slap, the way I worked it, I would come up first with my forearm into his face mask. Then when I raised his head, I would hit him right across I would come with my right arm across the side of his head. And of course, it would catch him in the ear hole there and then kind of stun him a little bit. I don't care whether the game meant nothing. It didn't mean a thing. To me, I had to play as hard as I could play.
Gino Marchetti was one of the most feared pass rushers ever.
Gino Marchetti was the greatest defensive end in my mind that's ever played the game. He's the one that started to rush the passer the way that defensive linemen rush the passer today.
I had a lot of sleepless nights on the night before the ball game. You know, you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you think about number 89.
Most thing I'm proud of in the National Football League, never had a 15-yard penalty. Never.
Two tackles who were the cornerstones of their respective teams, Joe Green of the Steelers and the Cowboys' Bob Lilly. Howie Long was the Defensive Lineman of the Year in 1986. And even renowned tough guys were intimidated by Doug Atkins.
This guy's the closest thing to Superman. You name people, and I'd have a real problem trying to find someone better as a defensive end than Doug Atkins.
I don't think there's anybody as tough as Doug Atkins. Matter of fact, I know there's nobody as tough as Doug Atkins.
He was one of those guys that certainly could put fear in your heart. When he got to you, he broke you in half.
You know, for years, you'd ask guys, who's the toughest guy that ever played professional football? And the answer was Doug Atkins. And he had that thing going, you know, that clothesline that he would throw, and of course they outlawed it, so you don't see it anymore, and I'd like to take another look at that thing.
Well, we sent our man Ray Bentley down to Knoxville to get a closer look at that clothesline.
Thanks, Pat. We're at the Nayland Thompson Center at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, the home of Doug Atkins. Now, Doug was known for the clothesline technique, and we have a couple of UT players here with us today. And, Doug, we're going to demonstrate this clothesline technique. Guys, go ahead and line it up here.
Well, as you rush a passer, you get into him, and then as a halfback goes by, you pop him like that. And son, I tried to tell you to get a little wider.
Now, how many guys actually get up from that kind of shot?
Well, they get up slowly sometimes, and sometimes they didn't get up. And I hated to do it, and I asked them to get out. If I didn't do it, I caught the devil, so I had to do it. So after a while, they outlawed it.
The offensive line is next.
Sure, my nose has been broken maybe 25 times or more. It's been fixed. It looks kind of good now, but I got it all from football.
To the Outback Steakhouse, all Madden, all Millennium Team. And, John, we've stopped in front of a group you should be fairly familiar with.
And you didn't think we were going to get through this team without having any Oakland Raiders on it, do you? You know, I always believe that you build a team with offensive linemen, and that's what we did. And, you know, for years, we used to run to the left side all the time, and everyone said, well, the reason the Raiders run left is because Kenny Stabler's a quarterback. He's left-handed. The reason we ran to the left side is because we had a great tackle there in Art Shell, a great left guard there in Gene Upshaw, and a great center in Jim Otto.
Becoming a Hall of Fame center wasn't originally part of the plan for Otto.
I didn't want to be a center. My original plan as a boy was to throw the football or kick it. I'd be the quarterback, or I'd run with it, or something like that. And I weighed 120 pounds, and they didn't have a center on the 6th string in the 9th grade. So I was a 9th grade 6th string center. Someone said, why don't you put a 0 on your jersey, Jim, just to be a 0, to be ought. Our equipment manager in those days said, why don't you be ought-o? They put the 0, ought, and an O on my shirt, so I became 00. I've had 27 knee surgeries, and both my knees are artificial. I have 2 artificial shoulders, and my back has steel rods and everything. And, I got it all from football. Sure, my nose has been broken maybe 25 times or more. It's been fixed. It looks kind of good now, but you break your jaw, or you tear up a knee, or you break an ankle. You just keep on playing.
Mel Hine is the only offensive lineman ever named NFL MVP, while Roosevelt Brown was a 27th round draft pick for the Giants.
He was 6'5" and 265 pounds, and he could flat out run most of the players on the team. But we had a particular play called a 48 pitch out, and Rosie, big number 79, was in front of me, and just as I would get downfield, all of a sudden this big blur would go by me, and with Rosie once again making another block downfield. It was an absolutely Hall of Fame type of play.
Jim Parker helped protect Johnny Unitas en route to 2 Baltimore championships.
Parker was like putting an apartment house in the line. Perhaps the most difficult thing for me to deal with was someone who had this huge bulk, who still had enough mobility to move around.
Vince Lombardi called Forrest Gregg the finest player he ever coached. Born in Canton, Georgia, John Hanna is enshrined here in Canton, Ohio. 2 offensive tackles that defined the 1980s, Anthony Munoz of the Bengals and the Rams' Jackie Slater. Bob St. Clair was 6'9", but his eating habits got people's attention.
I've eaten raw meat all my life. My grandmother used to feed me pieces of raw liver right off the chopping block. So I acquired a taste for the blood. And I was the captain of the team, and I'd take my plate of liver, and I'd walk over to the table where the rooks were, and you'd all look and wonder what the captain's going to be sitting with them, So I sat down, they all looked at that, and I cut it. And most people don't realize that when you chew raw liver, it's almost like crunching of an apple. And I'd exaggerate it naturally, and crunch, and let the blood kind of drip down my chin and all that. And you'd see them scatter. They'd say, that was the end of it.
We're playing poker with the Packers when we return.
Whoa, look out! There would be no football league today had it not been for George Halas, there's no doubt about it. He did his own coaching, he played right end, he signed the players, he did his own scouting, he ran the concessions. He was a one-man gang.
And George Halas.
One of the things I think that I've learned from my father was that people mean something, that's the whole thing.
I think everyone felt that they were going to work for an organization that had a tremendous amount of respect for them as human beings. That, to me, made you want to play for the guy, made you want to give your all.
When we won our first Super Bowl, most gracious man. And in defeat, always saw the good side of it. It was almost like winning and losing didn't really matter. He really was a man extremely humbled, who believed in giving and who loved with a passion the game of football.
Paul Brown was a legend, a person who really changed football into an organized sport, developing the use of film and playbooks and assignments and things of that nature.
Keep in mind what he was, essentially was a teacher. He thought of football as nothing other than a classroom. Paul Tagliabue asked Pete Rozelle, who were the most important owners in the National Football League? And Pete said, well, I think in my time, George Halas and Rooney. But in a way, I think maybe the most important guy was Paul Brown. He made the league better for the fans and the players both.
John, those are three men who really made pro football what it is today.
They were really our football forefathers, and when you think of Art Rooney, he was a great man. He was everyone's grandfather. Paul Brown and George Halas were amazing in that they were not only owners, but they were also coaches. So when we put this team together, we have to have coaches. So we start off with George Halas, Paul Brown, and then there's going to be two more. One is Don Shula, a guy who's won more games as a head coach than anyone in the history of the game. And then the guy that can't be left off this team, to me, the greatest coach that ever coached is Vince Lombardi.
Well, John, I'll tell you, if you ever had the experience of playing for Vince Lombardi, as I did, it's something you'll never forget.
Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing.
We're going to expect a 100% effort at all times. Anything less than that is not good enough. I think we can accomplish most anything if we're willing to pay the price.
We stood side by side, each one fighting for the other. And we said until we died, we'd always be blood brothers.
And the price of success is hard work. Hard work and a determination that whether we win or lose, that we've applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand.
Remember that first speech? Gentlemen, I have never been associated with a loser, and I'm not about to start now. If you're not willing to make the sacrifice, to pay the price, to do the things you have to do to win, to subjugate your individual needs and wishes and wants for the benefit of the team, then get the hell out. I mean, it was quiet. It was quiet. He said there are trains and planes and buses leaving Green Bay every day, and some of you may be on them. He said, we may lose, but we won't lose with the same faces.
Grab, grab, grab. Nobody tackle. Put your shoulders in there out there.
Well, he had the way of intimidating anybody, anywhere, at any time. I don't know if the President of the United States might not have been intimidated by Coach Lombardi, but you know, there were a lot of positive things about him. Though you look back on him, so many lessons, so many philosophies, principles, things we learned from him that I guess served most of us throughout life.
The day I remember most is the Ice Bowl.
I was under the impression, you understand, that we weren't going to play that game.
Were you?
Oh, heck yes.
Well,
I said it's going to be
consideration.
I said it's impossible for them to allow us to go out here and play in this kind of condition. Yeah. You know, especially when I got up that morning and walked out and tried to crank my car and I couldn't get the car started. And I looked, I said, I don't believe this. My car is frozen. You know.
Before the game, everybody wears gloves now. But Vince came in and told us, he said, I don't want anybody to wear gloves.
My God.
He said, especially receivers or defensive guys who might come in contact with the ball, he said, don't want you to wear any gloves. And everybody's complaining, but they couldn't wear gloves. And I told Dominic Gentile, I told him, I said, equipment man, I said, Dominic, get me a pair of brown gloves. Vince will never know the difference. You know, see, I used to go with defense up there. I was with Willie Davis, the captain. So we were right in the front coming up before the game. And Vince was standing there, we're waiting. I guess they're waiting for something to happen. And before they let us come on the field for Super Bowl I. So Vince said there and looked at the way the field was all decorated. And he said, man, football's come a long way from the old cow pastures where they had the gridiron. The grid was really gridirons on the football field. And I said, yeah, it really has. There's Super Bowl I. I'm thinking, what would he do today? Yeah. Super Bowl 33. Look at the, all the hype and everything.
He did get nervous for that game.
Well, he
got really.
I think the thing he told us was that we couldn't win that game 14-10. We couldn't win it close. He had to be a big game. Yeah. And I don't think he ever, that's the only game I remember ever wanting us to say we had to win by the 3. I think he had some money on the side maybe.
Well, every place you go now, everybody wants to know about Coach Lombardi. It's really very difficult to explain because he meant so many different things to so many different people. Yeah. And, my relationship with him is entirely different than yours or even yours. Yeah. And the thing, he was like, he was sort of uplifting kind of a guy. That's the kind of feeling I got from him, And
I came up with a thought one time about he was a kind of a human being that could see a gap between where we were and what we could become. And he felt that it was his God-given responsibility to close that gap, to make you use every ounce of your talent.
Jack's back.
When they join this team, I tell them that from now on, that there are only three things that are really important in their lives: their religion, their family, and the Green Bay Packers.
The All Millenium linebackers are next.
Wherever I go, it's still, oh, you're the guy that got Frank Gifford.
Later, Ball Hall of Fame opened its doors in 1963. Some 200 of the game's most important figures are enshrined here.
Welcome back to the All Madden All Millenium Team. And we obviously are off the guided tour, off the beaten path. I have no idea where we are. John, where are we?
Well, we're down in the basement, Pat. This is where the great stuff is. This is like being a kid in a candy store. They got, you know, old trophies and helmets, and look at this one. I mean, the old leather helmet, this thing here where the ears flap, the old night football. Here they got a, oh, I don't need that one. You know, and they got, you know, shoulder pads like this. Imagine at one time they were playing in pads like this, old cleats. And then, you know, we were talking about Paul Brown and how he was so innovative. Well, this was one that didn't work for Paul Brown. This was a ball dryer. What he was going to do is put the footballs in here, close it, and dry them. You know what happened? It baked them. And then they got them out of here, and the footballs were baked, and they couldn't do anything with them.
And all the lights in the stadium went out.
You know, there's some great pictures down here. Look at this one here. Here's Soapy Shapiro. He was the shortest guy that ever played pro football, 5 feet 1/2 inches.
You know, it reminds me, John, that in the history of pro football, there have been some great nicknames.
Well, you got your Broncos and Crazy Legs and Hacksaw and Deacons and all those kind of names. They've always had great nicknames.
And, you know, sometimes they were more than just nicknames. They were aliases.
Yeah, there was a time where a high school coach or a college coach, if he wanted to play pro football on Sunday, but he didn't want anyone to recognize him or know who he was, he would wear a helmet and a mask that looked like this.
I wore one in high school.
The defensive backs begin with one of those great nicknames, Night Train Lane.
All aboard the Night Train.
Dick was an amazing guy. Everyone knew Night Train Lane. He was truly a national celebrity. Wherever you went, no matter how prestigious the individual was, he knew Night Train, and Night Train knew him by first name.
In his rookie season, Night Train had 14 interceptions in just 12 games, a record that still stands today. Proving he could do more than just pick off passes, Night Train grew into one of the league's most ferocious hitters.
I originated the necktie tackle. I weighed 187 pounds when I joined the Rams. When I come up and hit a guy, I got the worst of it. I saw stars for 15 minutes. One day I sitting there on the bench, I said, man, I gotta find me a better way to tackle. And I thought of going up to tackle a guy, and he still seemed like he's the kind of guy that could bowl me over backwards. I hit him with a forearm, stop him, and then tackle him. They always told, the harder you hit them, the harder they're gonna fall.
The rest of the defensive backs, Mel Blount, Willie Brown, Mike Haynes, Ken Houston, and Larry Wilson, who once played with 2 broken hands. 2 of the hardest hitters to ever play in the secondary, Jack Tatum and Ronnie Lott.
Look, football, first of all, is about hitting. When I was a kid watching football, I mean, when you wanted to play on the defensive side of the ball, everybody wanted to be Jack Tatum.
Well, it's kind of funny. When I finished playing, then, you know, guys would say, well, you know, what guys around in the secondary that still play like you do? And it was real easy. You say Ronnie Lott. And then, you know, after that, you'd have to think about it.
It's nothing like bringing the wood.
That was my thing. I tried to protect my corners to the inside. They could throw anything they wanted to the outside, but I didn't want them to come inside. If they came inside, they had to pay.
I've had people say, man, do you think you hit as hard as Jack? And I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know if I can hit as hard as Jack. People think to be a hard hitter that it's something special. but it's what's in your heart.
Yeah, yeah. You got to bring it.
You know, on defense, that's all you got.
That's all you got.
You know, I mean, if you get a great hit, man, it's like, that's your touchdown. That's your score.
That's the score. It's, you know, the only time you get to really express yourself, you know, other than making an interception, and that's pretty much luck.
Yeah.
Two real hitters who were defensive backs, but could have been linebackers.
That sounds like a cue.
The very definition of middle linebacker, Dick Butkus of the Chicago Bears.
I just played the game the way I thought it should be played, and if it was so different that here it is, 25 years later, people are still talking about the way I played the game. I said, well, damn, I must have did something right. The question always comes up, well, you know, did you ever play in a Super Bowl? And I said, no, get along. Super Bowl, I said, I've never been in a playoff, man, you know, since high school. Okay, maybe it doesn't seem funny, but everybody's telling me like I'm like there's some kind of animal out there and, you know, yelling at everybody and everything. Everybody had this opinion that I was so crazy and everything else. Maybe so at certain times, but I also had fun with guys. I talked to guys all the time. I think the NFL and the culmination of getting in the Hall of Fame is, you know, it was like, well, I can die now. So I've done everything, you know, that I wanted to do. And that was probably the toughest transition, is trying to find what you love to do second best.
The rest of the linebackers. Sam Huff of the Giants and Redskins. Ray Nitschke was the MVP of the '62 championship game. Willie Lanier won Super Bowl IV with the Chiefs. The Mad Stork Ted Hendricks won 4 Super Bowls with the Colts and Raiders, while Jack Ham has 4 Super Bowl rings from the Steelers. Lawrence Taylor earned 2 rings while reinventing the outside linebacker position. Chuck Bednarik's brutal hit knocked Frank Gifford out of football for a whole year.
And wherever I go, it's still, oh, you're the guy that got Frank Gifford. Yeah, I'm the guy that got Frank Gifford. We were playing the Giants in Yankee Stadium, and it was about 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. We had a 4-point lead. And Frank did a down and in pattern. And I'm coming this way. He doesn't see me. I'm coming hell bent for relation. It's like a Mack truck approaching a Volkswagen. And as soon as he caught the ball, I hit him high with my forearm and all right here in the chest. I guess his head snapped. He was unconscious. The ball flipped, and I watched it, and Chuck Weber from our team fell on it. And as he fell on it, I knew this game was over, and I turned around with a clenched fist, and I said, this effing game is over. Like Sam Huff said, we linebackers dream about those kind of shots. Linebackers do, God almighty.
Receivers and tight ends are next.
I played hard, that's all. I wasn't, there was no polish about my Ditch. I just played hard.
Dr. Jim Ehlinger is a link to the past, a link to the earliest days of pro football. Ehlinger played for the Buffalo Bison in 1924 when the league was only 4 years old. Today, at age 97, Ehlinger is the oldest living former NFL player.
We played hard, and if we could walk, we could play. We'd practice 45 minutes every week. 45 minutes, that's all we ran through the plays.
Although it's been 74 years since he played, some memories last a lifetime, especially the impression left by one Jim Thorpe.
I went down and I saw Thorpe catch the ball. The next thing I saw were 2 knees, and Thorpe's face was right in between them. I'm out cold. And the first time out, he came over to our bench and says, how's the kid doing?
Recently, Dr. Ehlinger paid a visit to the Miami Dolphins.
So I got $50 a game. $50. Hello, how are you?
I'll pay you 100 if you'll fill in for us this week, all right? I'll give you 100. I'll double your money, all right?
I don't blame you.
But John, $50 a game?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that $50 a game, though. That got doctor in front of his name because it put him through dental school.
The receivers began with Don Hudson of the Green Bay Packers. Everybody loves Raymond Berry of the Colts, No one more than Johnny Unitas. Lance Allworth was the AFL's first star. Fred Biletnikoff was the MVP of Super Bowl XI. And Paul Warfield averaged 21 yards per catch for the undefeated 72 Dolphins.
Well, that's a very nice group of receivers. What about the tight ends?
Well, we're going to have three of them, Pat. The first one is Dave Casper, who played for me with the Oakland Raiders, who could do it all. Second one is John Mackey, the great tight end of the Baltimore Colts. And the third one is a guy that we all know now as a coach, but I'll tell you, when he was a tight end for the Chicago Bears, and later the Dallas Cowboys, he was that tough guy who could block, who could catch, and really, again, when you think of football, he's what football's all about, Mike Ditka.
Before Ditka, tight ends didn't often see the ball. Iron Mike changed all that.
I played hard, that's all. I wasn't, there was no polish about Mike Ditka. I just played hard. I enjoyed really making a block as much as catching a pass. And then the fun about catching a pass was not when you caught the pass, it was what you could do after that. Guys don't understand that today. That's the hardest thing. They think, oh, I caught the pass, the job's over. It just started. I was told that you get out of life what you put into it. You know, you work hard, you got a chance. You don't work hard, you got nothing. I started playing sports at an early age, and my dad was not a guy who was a big fan, but he told me very simply, if you're going to play, you play it the best you can. You don't complain, you don't whine. And any time I did, I got the leather put to my butt. I've been fortunate, I've been blessed, I understand that. The older you get, the more you understand it. Maybe when you're playing it, you think you're a tough guy, and you think, you know, this is because of me, but it really isn't. And I think I was fortunate to play in a great era of the National Football League. There weren't very many teams, but the teams that there were, they played good and they played hard.
Stay tuned. The running backs are next.
People that are 40 and older, you know, probably remember me as a football player. People 35 and under, you know, saw the movie Brian Song.
Steakhouse All Madden All Millenium Team.
Earlier, you selected three running backs, Red Grange, Jim Thorpe, and Bronco Nagurski. But knowing you as I do, I got a feeling you're not done yet.
Now, that was pretty good, but those were just starters. And I think anytime you talk about running backs and you're talking about all-time, all-millennium, greatest, there's one guy that defines a pro running back. That's Jim Brown.
9 years in the league, 8 rushing titles.
In college, I was almost discouraged from playing football and staying in school. And my high school superintendent flew up, great man, to talk to me, to keep me in school. And I went from like 5th string to All-American in 1 year. And I decided at that time I would never let anyone tell me what I couldn't do.
Try to stop a car. Try to stop a car that's running away. He was fast and strong and big.
Yet at the peak of his career, Jim Brown stunned the sports world by walking away.
I left at the age of 29 years old, MVP of the league. That's the kind of a statement I wanted to make. I am a satisfied ex-pro football player, and I let other people argue where they want to put me, how they want to put me. But I will say this, if it comes down to one play in any given situation, I would want to be the guy to run the ball.
The rest of the running backs, Marion Motley. Hugh McElhenney's first ever NFL rush was a 42-yard touchdown. And John Henry Johnson, one of the most electrifying performers this sport has ever seen, Gale Sayers.
Give me 18 inches of daylight. That's all I need.
Gale was a star. Coach Hallis always maintained that Gale Sayers didn't need any coaching.
Gale is one in a lifetime kind of a runner. Great strides, great cutting ability, big heart. No doubt about it, he's special.
Gale Sayers, I think, is an unbelievable back. Without a doubt, best halfback.
It was easy. It was easy. And the things that I did on that football field, all I had to do was get myself in shape. I had a God-given talent. People, how did you do that? I don't know why I did it, but I did it. Hey, piece of cake.
In 1965, Sayers led the league in scoring and had one of the best rookie seasons ever.
The 6-touchdown game against the 49ers, woke up that morning, rainy, windy. It seemed like everybody was slipping but me. And, you know, every time I got the ball, it seemed like, you know, I had dry footing and everybody else was sliding by.
In 1968, Sayers suffered a devastating knee injury. Although he rebounded with 1,000 yards the next year, a second knee injury in 1970 ended his career prematurely.
Was I robbed? Hey, I think everything is meant to be. I had an outstanding short career, no doubt about it. If I would have played 13 years, 14 years, I wouldn't have achieved anything more. Everything that one can accomplish in professional football, I accomplished that in 68 ball games.
Sayers is known not only for his moves on the field, but for his friendship with teammate Brian Piccolo, who was stricken with cancer. Their story was told in the 1971 movie Brian Song.
I think I span over a couple generations. People that are 40 and older, probably remember me as a football player. People 35 and under, saw the movie Brian Song. Joy Piccolo, Brian's wife, and I, we spent about a month with the producers, James Caan and Billy D. Williams, going over events, making sure that it was true. I'm proud of that movie because it showed that we cared for our fellow person, our fellow man. Every time I go out and see, as I said, go out and speak, somebody will say, I saw Brian Song last night. Teachers will write me and say, we showed Brian Song. And could you write back our students about how you felt about the movie? Brian was a tremendous young man, just a person I'll never forget.
I love Brian Piccolo. And I'd like all of you to love him, too.
It's great to be a football player, but it's the private man is far more important than the public star. And I'd rather be the private man.
In his first 2 seasons, Earl Campbell was the league's MVP.
Earl Campbell was probably the purest runner that I've seen. Earl was bullish. He was bullish. I mean, if he saw you, he's gonna try to run over you. I'm surprised he didn't really hurt someone bad because he had those capabilities. Tough runner.
John Riggins was the MVP of Super Bowl 17.
Blocking for John was easy, and you could leave half the guy hanging outside, and John would run through it. The best, John Riggins was without a doubt one of the toughest guys that I've ever played with. He came to play on Sunday.
And rounding out the running backs, Walter Payton, the NFL's all-time leading rusher.
Walter Payton had tremendous stamina. He could handle adversity. He was at his best sometimes when he was on a losing team, an intelligent guy, and he can make people miss. And with his size, the durability factor is key.
Stay tuned. The game of the millennium is on the way.
Well, John, is that the whole team?
Well, not really. I was thinking there's one guy that can't be left off this team. And I will say it's a guy that I coached. And he was the greatest competitor that I've ever known. And it's George Blanda. I want to put him on this team as the kicker and then the backup quarterback, because George wasn't just a kicker. I mean, he's a quarterback, too. So we have 8 other quarterbacks, and if all 8 go down, I'll tell you, I'd never mind bringing George Blanda back.
Well, John, now that the team is complete, what now? What do we do now?
I think we just enjoy it for a minute, and think of all those guys that played the game and that are here in the Hall of Fame, the equipment they wore, the old jerseys, the leather helmets, and the plays that they made, the runs, the catches, the blocks, the tackles, and kind of what football is all about, kind of where football started. And, we picked this All Millenium Team, and we've talked about this for years. Wouldn't it be nice if we could take this team and play a game? Well, we're going to play a game. You and I are going to sit right here on a bench. Now, this was a bench from Lambeau Field, Vince Lombardi's last game as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to sit on this bench, and we're going to watch this game.
And we'll have that game after this.
I'd love to have played it in these days because it's a great game now. I wish I was playing. I wish I was young enough to play it this day and time.
If I could take a bunch of the old-time guys and we could go back to our youth and play the game that way, the way we played it, I'll guarantee you we were as sound as anybody that ever played.
You show us that you have the inner drive and a competitive drive to make things happen. Believe me, you will be a Packer.
You know, we went out and picked this All Millenium team. We went after very physical, tough guys. I'm not too sure about the mental part of it. How important is that to you?
Well, I think mental toughness is many things, and it's rather difficult to try to explain. Success in anything in this world, I think, is 75% mental.
You know, it's fun watching these old-timers play, and the more you watch, the more you realize that there's two things that never change: fundamentals and execution.
You got the idea. Now, here's another play like the one you just saw, only watch what happens. Football is a game of inches, and inches make the champion.
Are you going to be out there horsing around coaching this thing, or are you going to take it seriously? Because you do know that this is the game of the century.
You're absolutely right. Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing. In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
Well, you got all these guys. They're all sitting in the locker room. They're ready to go. Maybe getting fired up for the last time in their life. And now the thing that you're legendary for, your pregame speeches, why don't you get up and give it so we can all hear it?
I have to first sell them on themselves, and then I must sell them on this team, on this game, and each individual play as the most important thing in their lives. My name is Vince Lombardi. You have been invited here because we believe you have the necessary talent and the ability to do the job. We're going to expect a 100% effort at all times. Anything less than that is not good enough. If you have the dedication, the total commitment, and the pride necessary to become a part of this team that has been built on pride, you will stay here.
Jim Thorpe is our man. Greatest athlete the world has ever seen. And who loved with a passion the game of football.
I have never been associated with a loser, and I'm not about to start now.
If it comes down to one play in any given situation, I would want to be the guy to run the ball.
We're going to win the game. I guarantee it.
The game of the millennium is next.
I was looking for an onion.
Coming, Dion!
The crowd's on their feet for the game of the millennium.
All right, let's call it the air, boys. Heads, tail.
Thorpe breaks one tackle. He's gone. Favre, handoff Emmitt Smith. Baugh takes the snap from Hine. Now gives it to Sayers on the reverse. Sayers cuts inside. Touchdown.
I love this matchup. Randy Moss versus Night Train Lane.
And back and forth they go. Picked off by Deion Sanders.
The All Millennium guys don't like that.
Thorpe drop kicks. 3 seconds left. All Millennium trails by 4. Baugh looking over the middle. He's got Ditka. Ditka breaks Zach Thomas' tackle. Deion tries to drag him down. Touchdown. The final score, All Millennium 34, 98 All Madden 31.
Not only did Sammy get his dream to play with these guys, but he throws the winning touchdown. It doesn't get any better than this.
Over 1 million people voted for their favorite series and stars.
Which will feature the Denver Broncos taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And folks, we will have over 75,000 strong here at the stadium trying to see if Denver can repeat as Super Bowl champions, while Atlanta, in its first ever appearance in the Super Bowl, looking to get that trophy, the Vince Lombardi trophy, symbolizing the best in the game. And hello, everyone. I'm James Brown, and welcome to Miami for Fox's coverage of Super Bowl 33. And folks, if you're talking Super Bowl, you have to talk to these three guys here. 5 rings and 7 Super Bowl appearances between them. However, Terry, the biggest disrespect shown to Atlanta was what today?
Folks, you're going to get a kick out of that, but maybe you won't. The Atlanta Falcons, we all know, that there's not a lot of respect going on for them in this football game, but this is the Bulldog early edition of the Miami Herald, and I don't know if we can get a shot of this, but look at this. Denver Broncos versus Minnesota Vikings. How about that? Is that a slap in the face? It's like, where have these guys been all week? They don't know that Atlanta's in town?
That's the evening edition. They remedied the situation this morning.
No. And, Chris, that's the kind of, I guess, disrespect that Atlanta players have had to deal with all season long.
Yeah, they really have. It's been an incredible year for them. Nobody gave them a chance. It's been a Cinderella season. Of course, you all know about Dan Reeves and the heart problems he had to go up to Minnesota, that incredible win up there. Nobody gave him a chance in that one either. So for the Atlanta Falcons, this is just a normal state of affairs here. They've been dealing with this all year long.
Well, they've got the biggest stage in the world to try to gain their respect right here at Super Bowl 33. All right, folks, let's set up the next 4 hours for you as we head towards kickoff. First, we'll take you behind the scenes with the Falcons and Broncos in our Super Bowl diaries. Folks, it is access that you can't see anywhere else. And we'll have all the stars for you, including an unprecedented interview with 2 opposing Super Bowl stars together. That's my conversation with MVP Terrell Davis and the NFL's #2 rusher Jamal Anderson. Then, if it's entertainment you want, well, check this out. We'll have a live concert with Ice Cube and Mac 10, the Black Crowes, and Kiss. And since we're speaking of entertainment, today's Super Bowl promises to be entertaining for a number of reasons. Think about it for a second. No Super Bowl has ever had as many soap opera type stories as this one. Is this John Elway's last game? Did Dan Reeves keep John from winning more Super Bowls? Did John get Dan fired? Well, nonetheless, overshadowed by all of this is another controversial story that broke last night. And our Pam Oliver is at the Falcons Hotel with the latest. Hello, Pam.
Hi, JB. This is obviously a very shocking and disturbing story for anybody associated with the Atlanta Falcons and anybody who cares about Eugene Robinson. Robinson was arrested last night about 9 o'clock for solicitation of prostitution. We emphasize that he has declared his innocence, saying he did not proposition an undercover police officer for sex. Ironically, the arrest comes on the very same day that Robinson was awarded the Bart Starr Award, which is an award that goes to the player who exemplifies high moral character. The Falcons, meanwhile, earlier today issued a statement from Coach Dan Reeves. Now, in it, Reeves says this is a private family matter and that he will have no further comment on the Eugene Robinson arrest before the day's game, although there was an article in the AP which said that Reeves simply cares about Robinson and cares about him unconditionally. Now, the Falcons no doubt are hoping that this situation does not erase, does not overshadow the many marvelous things they were able to accomplish this season. You can trace the Falcons' turnaround back to this date, January 20th, 1997, the day that Dan Reeves was hired and put an end to some pretty shoddy football in Atlanta.
The Falcons are going to the Super Bowl. They have done the unthinkable. It's on to Miami. Miami Bell! Miami Bell! We done shocked the world now. Shocked the whole world.
Yes, the Falcons have shocked the world, and if they're honest, probably themselves. Their Herculean rise from the ashes blows the mind.
We've been underdogs, but we believe that we're the best team. You know, we believe in what we do.
It's like we're Clark Kent, and you don't know that Clark Kent is Superman until he spins around in that booth and his glasses fly out, the cape comes out. You know, you're like, man, who was that guy?
And we worked our butts off and went out there and made some good things happen. And it snowballed from there.
A lot of people probably didn't even know I was still playing football, you know, because I've been out of sight for 3 years playing down here in Atlanta.
This team is hungry, very, very thirsty. They want to prove that they belong.
We're hungry, and we want it.
And that's one of the reasons we're here.
Okay, we got two hungries and a thirsty, and we're rolling.
Boy, I tell you what, they're fun to be around.
I'm trying to get my game face on. You're up here singing.
I believe I can fly.
If you really enjoy football, you'll enjoy watching this group because they never give up. I mean, they play the way the game should be played. They're tough, they're physical, they're hard-nosed, they never quit. You know, they play hard in all situations.
Like players, like coach, mirror images now wildly successful in eradicating losing methods and mentalities.
How much of it is this team a reflection, then, of Dan Reeves?
I think we're definitely a reflection as far as being organized and having the team spirit. You know, we believe in team.
My first year when we went 3-13, there was no concern whatsoever except to get the game over so we can get back to Atlanta to party. I'd never been on a football team where guys just didn't care at all. And to see the changes after Coach Reeves got here, it was total night and day. The whole mental attitude changed to where when we walked on the field, we expected to win rather than expecting to lose.
So if people say that this is a fluke, that the Falcons are kind of playing over their heads, that would insult you?
No, because at this point, that's not even a realistic statement. You know, that's not even, anybody who says that is just, as we say in hip-hop community, they just hating. They have no reason to just hate, you know, they just hate, you know.
The Falcons' defining moments have been numerous, specific, and impressive. And for each milestone, the ultimate goal remains clear, though perhaps a bit surreal.
So what's the response been to that ring?
Oh, let me see that thing, Gene. Man, we're gonna get one of these, man. We're gonna get one of these.
Our time to shout on 3. 1, 2, 3. Our time to shout.
On the injury front, the sprained ankles of two key starters have improved. Defensive end Lester Archambault and fullback Brian Kozlowski both practiced since Wednesday, and they have now been upgraded to probable. Meanwhile, special teams ace Tim Dwight came down with the stomach virus on Friday, but the Falcons tell us he's recovered 100% and will be fine for today. Now for what's happening with the Denver Broncos, we move over to Susie Colbert, who's at the team's hotel.
Pam, I can say that it's much quieter on this end. I mean, how often can you say that as the Broncos are about to board the bus to take them to the stadium, that they are as close to 100% healthy as you can be? Now, here's the deal. If Denver wins today, they will establish the winningest 3-year run in NFL history. But to a man, the Bronco players insist this game does not have a theme. It's not about making history. It's not about a coaching feud. It's not about win one for John Elway like it was last year. It's about one thing: win the ring, and the rest will take care of itself.
You can stand up and salute in Denver. The Broncos are world champions.
To get back to the Super Bowl, that was our whole goal. Because as good as it felt, we had 650,000 people lining the street. Imagine how winning a second one would feel.
When the season started, Coach Shanahan talked about an opportunity to be the best team ever. Was it motivating or exhausting?
A little bit of both. You know, the times he said that, it's like I'd get butterflies in my stomach. I'd be like, wow.
The butterflies lasted until week 15, when the Broncos' perfect run hit a giant wall.
After you win as many games as we won in a row, you kind of get used to it. Guys forget the little things that we did poorly.
We put so much pressure on ourselves that, like I said, we just really stopped having fun and really started focusing on going undefeated.
So the fact that we lost, I think, was a little bit of relief. Now we could just forget about this going undefeated. Forget about being the best team ever. Let's just go in and accomplish what we set out to do, and that's to win a Super Bowl.
What does it take from coaching through the whole team to be able to repeat as Super Bowl champs?
It takes great coaching. We have that. It takes great leadership. We have that. It takes great talent. We have that. It takes the support of the organization, the owner. We have that.
Focus, confidence, experience, the Broncos have it all. But just maybe they've lost one edge: the motivation of being Super Bowl underdogs like last year.
Sometimes you like to be the underdog. I think it gives you a special upper hand because you go into it with the type of chip on your shoulder. I think we have to approach this game at a different level now, and we have to raise it even a notch above where it was last year because now everyone's expecting you to win.
We got to act like this is our first time here, and we're as hungry as ever, and we want it more than anybody in the world.
If this year's team played last year's team, who wins?
I like to think this year's team. You know, this year's team, I think, will win.
There's no question in my mind. This year's team beat last year's team by 14. We want to be considered one of the best. I mean, there are a lot of guys that play, 8, 10, 15 years and never get an opportunity to go to one Super Bowl. And here we are in a situation, we're going to two, and a great opportunity to win.
The second time around is so much tougher because every week, every team is gunning for the world champs. And Shannon Sharpe confesses that the hard part's over, and that was just getting here. Not that they're taking Atlanta lightly. They know that the underdogs can be dangerous. And Shannon adds that he believes that this Atlanta team is better than the Green Bay team that Denver faced last year. JB, we're going to follow the guys to the stadium. We'll see you there.
All right, Susie, we look forward to seeing you here, and there's no question about it. Most people know who the Denver Broncos are, the defending Super Bowl champion, Terrell Davis MVP, John Elway. Atlanta, we've already emphasized it, first ever trip here. How big a distraction, Chris, will the Eugene Robinson be to the Falcons?
Well, think about it. Eugene Robinson was released last night about 11 o'clock at night, probably got back to the hotel about 12. Reports are that he then went in and talked to his teammates about it. We don't even know how long he stayed up. You know Eugene Robinson didn't sleep very well last night, and now he has to go out as the quarterback of this defense and make all the calls against the Denver Broncos, one of the most complicated schemes in all the National Football League. I don't think that it can help but have a major, major impact on this game.
It's a huge distraction. It's a huge distraction on our broadcast. When I heard this news this morning, I was in shock. I've known Eugene Robinson for a number of years, both as a player and as a person, a fine football player and a fine human being. I'm hopeful that this is just what Eugene Robinson is depicting it as being, a mix-up. Because I'll tell you what, this guy has accomplished a great deal on the football field and off the football field. For him to be remembered for one Saturday night in Miami, what a travesty.
Well, how stupid.
Yeah.
How stupid.
Allegedly.
Yeah, how stupid if this is true. Even if it isn't, it is already a major distraction. And we haven't even mentioned that his wife is here with his 2 children, and his dad's here. So how more embarrassing is that? And if you're the leader of a football team, obviously they're going to be looking at you, wondering, worrying about you, and Eugene's got to settle this thing immediately. But I do think one thing as a player, and this doesn't make this right or wrong, I do think that when Atlanta does start playing this football game, that's when the distraction is laid aside. I do think he'll be able to perform. I don't think it'll be a distraction then. But right now, I'm like Howie and everybody else, how stupid could something happen on the biggest day for the first time in the 33-year history of Atlanta that one of their leaders supposedly is solicited sex.
And let me co-tell on what Howie was saying as well. Let's underscore the fact that he has been charged with solicitation. He is not convicted of that, so let's hope, in fact, that that is true. And Eugene Robinson will play today. And similar to what Chris Collinsworth went through 10 years ago, one of his teammates, a vital cog to the Cincinnati Bengals, Stanley Wilson, missed the game. He was AWOL the night before in a cocaine-induced stupor. Chris Collinsworth sat down with him for the first time in those 10 years, and we will have that story a little later in the program. Right now, we're inviting you to kick back, relax, and stick around for a while because here's just a sample of what's on tap for today's show.
On tap!
Hey, yo, this is Ice Cube. And I'm Mac 10. Coming up on the one and only Fox Super Sunday.
This Super Showcase was transformed 30 years ago here in Miami. Joe Willie Namath's determined leadership guided the upstart Jets over the favorite Colts. We'll relive one of the greatest upsets in sports history with the heroes who forever changed the landscape of professional football. Then, you want a championship? You better have a ground game. As the league's top 2 rushers, Terrell Davis and Jamal Anderson, anchor their team's running attacks. Terrell's the silent slasher, while Jamal's a powerful punisher. JB brings together these 2 super rivals in an unprecedented interview. Next, experience the magic of Miami's torrid, spicy, and sultry nightlife. Fox's Jason Priestley has a new gig. He's our tour guide as he takes us to some of South Beach's most happening hot spots. And we take you inside the locker rooms and lives of our Super Sunday combatants. It's the first installment of the Super Bowl Diaries. Your all-access pass allows you to see how the Broncos and Falcons prepare for Super Sunday. Also, rap superstars Ice Cube and Mac 10 break off the sound something proper, baby, live from the Clevelander in South Beach.
Yo, it's all coming up, coming at you on the one and only Fox Super Sunday. What up, man? Good job.
On tap! Now that is a sweet investment.
You have a retirement plan?
Oh, sure. Invest, get rich, retire at 45.
Well, I'm 58.
Huh? Oh, your retirement plan.
Who's looking out for your investments? E-Trade, the #1 rated place to invest online with free real-time quotes, 10 times more research, smart alerts, all from $14.95. Isn't it time you looked out for #1? Call 1-800-E-TRADE-1 and see why someday we'll all invest this way.
You look at, 33. If you say 33 repetitively, 33, 33, 33, 33, it makes you thirsty. It sounds like thirsty. Somebody will say, "Are you thirsty?" And you'll be like, I guess I am. It sounds like I am because of 33 and thirsty. I would give you one of my beers, but then I wouldn't have something divisible of 33. I would have 5, which is not divisible by 33. But inherently, all numbers are divisible by 33.
I will not do this. I will not be a cog in a machine. I will not accept the obsolete. Keep your corporate ladder. Keep your empty mission statements. I will never play by the old rules again.
The rules of business have changed, and Micron PCs featuring Intel Pentium 2 processors are the digital slingshots you need to win.
Blockbuster Video, where each week you'll find your favorite releases guaranteed to be there, presents The Road to the Super Bowl. Denver kept its eyes on the prize against Miami in the AFC divisional playoffs and avenged one of only 2 regular season losses. The Broncos rolled up over 400 yards in offense as they blew by the Dolphins 38-3 and advanced to the AFC title game.
It's the Blockbuster Trip-A-Day giveaway. Blockbuster is giving away trips to glamorous events like film festivals, award shows, MGM movie premieres, and there are 50 million other prizes because every game piece is an instant winner every time. So play the Trip-A-Day giveaway every day and get caught up in the bright lights of stardom.
Yes, we're here in the pavilion at Manhattan Beach, and you're looking at Christy Ellison. She's up now in the 10th frame.
Needs 2 strikes to win the match. Well, she has to be disappointed. Did not throw a good shot, and she ends up with a very difficult spare.
Can you imagine that?
Super Bowl 33 on Fox is brought to you by Blockbuster Video, where each week you'll find select new releases guaranteed to be there. By Rolling Rock, a unique state of beer. By Micron, the rules of business have changed, and Micron PCs are the digital slingshots you need to win. And by E-Trade, the #1 rated place to invest online.
Think they'll get back together? It all depends on how she does on the quiz.
Who is the only player on a losing team to ever win Super Bowl MVP?
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Linebacker Chuck Howley of the Dallas Cowboys, Super Bowl V.
You're cute when you get it right.
Hit me again.
This is a tie game. 60 seconds. First and goal. No timeouts.
Who kicked the longest field goal ever in the history of the Super Bowl?
Garo Yepremian, Miami Dolphins.
Wrong. Steve Christie, Buffalo Bills, Super Bowl 28. What former quarterback who won the Super Bowl 4 times with the Pittsburgh Steelers still thinks he calls his own plays?
Ooh.
Come on, Kel. Give it to me, baby.
I know
Come
this.
on.
Come on. They got a lot of passion, don't they?
Yeah.
Gary Bradshaw.
Gary Bradshaw?
Close enough.
Coach Blade! Oh, and the flame burns bright. Oh, they got shoulder pads for that. Ow.
She's good.
She's good.
Oh, she's very good.
Beverly Hills 90210, Wednesdays on Fox.
This Family Guy moment is brought to you by Yahoo. Do you Yahoo?
Do you, Yahoo?
Introducing a show for pet lovers.
Hey, Peter, it's 7 o'clock and you've still got your pants on. What's the occasion?
Family Guy.
Amazing. You can barely drive a car.
You saw the herd of Broncos outside. They'll be pleased to see that 20-foot-high Bronco helmet, which some suggest still isn't big enough to fit the head of Shannon Sharp. We don't know whether that's true or not.
Good line, JB.
All right, well, the players will be greeted with balmy conditions here in South Florida, 78-degree temperatures, light breeze, as we welcome you to our home away from home and Fox's coverage of Super Bowl 33. You know, today's Super Bowl will be broadcast throughout the world in more than 800 million households. But really, many feel if it wasn't for one guarantee made 30 years ago, right here in Miami, the Super Bowl would not be the spectacle it is today. What I'm talking about, of course, is Super Bowl III, when a young, brash quarterback named Joe Willie Namath guaranteed a remarkable upset and then delivered.
I never thought that a world championship would feel this good this long, but this one certainly has.
Even now, when I think back on my career, 33 years in the National Football League, 7 years with the Colts and 26 years with the Dolphins, the toughest loss that I've ever had to suffer was in Super Bowl III because it was an embarrassment.
I've never experienced anything like that. And I probably won't ever again, other than my kids being born, is the greatest feeling I've ever had.
Well, it never really sunk in, man. I tell you, that was just depression time, boy, when we lost that game.
It means being a part of an event that happened once and will never happen again. We were the only winners from the AFL to win the Super Bowl. There'll never be another.
A lot of that team was comprised of guys who had been cast-offs from the NFL and who had a chip on their shoulder as you guys were going into that championship game.
Absolutely. Oh, James, absolutely. You know, we had guys that were rejected by other teams in the NFL, but there was a legitimate animosity.
We made the mistake of starting to believe what we were being told. We were told that we were superior to the AFL because we had been around longer and we were an established league. And the problem is that when you start to believe it, you have a major problem.
If we played the Jets 10 times in 1968, certainly after they beat us, I think we'd win 9 out of 10 times. When Joe Namath guaranteed that they were going to win the football game, it sort of astonished me because it was brash, and people just don't do that.
Did you really feel bad having said that, knowing how Coach felt?
James, I felt awful. When we jumped on me with both feet, we got out to practice the next day, and man, he got up in my, what are you doing? What are you doing? We got those guys right where we want them. He says, they think they can beat the world. They're so overconfident, and then you go and give them the stuff to get them all fired up. And I apologized. I swear. I said, Coach, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do that. I wasn't planned. I'm not trying to. I said, but you know, Coach, if they need those Clippers to get fired up, they are in trouble.
As you look back on all that has happened to you, Joe Namath, and the fact that you are still loved, swarmed wherever you go, What do you think was the significance in having you be the centerpiece of perhaps the most significant game in Super Bowl history?
I don't know, James. There are a lot of things in life that I wonder how it happened, why, how I got pushed in this direction, and I'm thankful for it. I really don't understand it completely myself.
But you're enjoying it.
Oh, yes, I do enjoy it.
This will be the first time that an American Football League team has defeated a National Football League team, answering all the questions of the future of the Super Bowl.
This, of course, the 30th celebration of Super Bowl III. We will have celebrations of Super Bowls 10 and 20 as well. And TB, I tell you, I got excited sitting down talking with Joe Namath, feeling his passion. Did the legend of Namath affect you as well?
I tell you what, to me, he was, he was George Strait, Howie. He was,
Sure.
Rick Jagger. He was bigger than life to me. And we played in Seattle in a preseason game, trying to get Seattle to obviously get a football team up there. And we played the Jets, and I couldn't take my eyes off of Joe, watching him the whole time. He was a legend, an idol. And when the game was over with, I ran around to a cop, grabbed a pen and paper, and tried to get his autograph. The only guy I couldn't get through to him, all the policemen around. And I said, man, this guy is too cool. I absolutely idolized him.
You know, he called my house once in high school recruiting for Alabama.
That's illegal now.
I know it is, but my mom answered the phone, and she said, no, sorry, Joe, he's sleeping. No, I'm sorry, I can't wake him up. I mean, it's really the story of my entire life. I tell people I played in 2 Super Bowls. How'd you do? Well, we lost both of them. But Joe Namath called my house. Well, what'd he say? I don't know. I didn't talk to him. You know, it's a theme here we got going.
Howie has the best one. We can't use it.
How about that? 4 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs, pretty heady stuff, and...
Hey, I called my own plays, JB.
Oh, here we go.
Don't we know that? Well, you know, everybody loves backstage passes, and coming up, we'll take you behind the scenes as the Broncos and Falcons prepare for today's Super Showdown. It's our Super Bowl diaries, and here's a peek.
I could play a lot longer if we played every 2 weeks.
33 spectacular halftime show featuring the incomparable Stevie Wonder, Miami's own Gloria Estefan, and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. It's the Progressive Auto Insurance halftime show. It promises all that's associated with Miami. And we'll be back for behind-the-scenes looks at the 2 teams after this.
Who is the cigarette-smoking man? What?
Moments ago, this is the Denver team bus leaving its Fort Lauderdale hotel for what is normally a very crowded Interstate 95 will be approximately a 20-minute ride with the police escort. As everything is getting set for Super Bowl 33. Why are these 5 Atlanta Falcons standing together? Well, because win or lose, these are the 5 of 6 Atlanta Falcons who are on their way to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl. By the way, 6 is the most Falcons in a Pro Bowl in 18 years. And that NFC-AFC Pro Bowl will take place next Sunday in Hawaii as we welcome you back to our set here at Pro Player Stadium. You know, 2 years ago, when Fox Sports had its first Super Bowl, we tried to take you into the inner sanctum of the 2 teams with our Fox Super Bowl diaries. Well, this year, with the help of the Falcons and Broncos, we're able to do it again. And Matt Millen, the only guy in NFL history to win 4 Super Bowls with 3 different teams, will be your guide through these diaries. Now, we have 3 parts, and we begin with the dramatic ending to the NFC Championship.
Morton Anderson checks into the ballgame. A 38-yard field goal. A chance to go to the Super Bowl. 38-yard field goal by Morton Anderson. The hold, the kick, it's on the way. It's up and going. The Falcons are going to the Super Bowl. And the celebration is underway on the field.
This is a tremendous feeling. There's only one football that went through the goalpost. You know, I wish I could cut it up. Everybody have a piece of it. But the guy that kicked the thing is going to own this football. All right, Morton.
To finally actually be in the Super Bowl, I was kind of caught in between celebrating and kind of thinking about the next game already. So I was excited, but I was like, this isn't it yet.
For me personally, it was like, I caught it. Actually, I didn't even want to get undressed. I didn't even want to shower. It was an incredible moment, and I was the last ones to get in the shower, and there was no more hot water. Ice, cold, and now that's what I do remember.
Atlanta Falcons are at the top of the world right now.
Everything has gone their way. They're happy, they're cheering. It's the best feeling in the whole world, but everything's about to change. See, this week, it all changes. Now you have to get serious. There's a Super Bowl to play, and if you don't focus on what you're going to do for the game, and you leave your game in Atlanta, it can beat you down in Miami.
The Broncos know that, but before they would focus on their upcoming Super Bowl, there was time to enjoy winning the AFC Championship game.
They say the water is real nice in Miami this time of year. Now we roll back to back.
And after Shannon Sharp worked on his backstroke, well, it was back to business.
That's round two. Felt good to win that AFC, but what we talked about before, there's one goal we've had from day one, and that's that Super Bowl. Enjoy the win. Wednesday will be your day off.
From our organization standpoint, it's always easier the second time around, the mistakes that you make the first time, understanding the little problems that normally exist.
Get ready for those Atlanta Falcons.
Players on both teams had barely taken their jerseys off after the AFC and NFC title games when Super Bowl hysteria began to hit, and it hit hardest in Atlanta. Falcons defensive back Ray Buchanan and running back Jamal Anderson made an appearance in a shopping mall that brought forth a happy mob. Being in the Super Bowl transforms a mere player into a superstar.
But walking out there and just people screaming, I was just like, are you kidding me? It's like Aerosmith or something, you know? This is like an in-store appearance for a rock group. It's wild, man. It's really wild.
I was like, oh, man, there's going to be a lot of people sitting out here. And I was looking at these people like, there's no way I'm going to be able to sign all these autographs. So there's going to be some people going home that's kind of upset. But then I started to feel like a rock star, and then I started to enjoy myself.
At Broncos headquarters, team owner Pat Bowlen was also enjoying himself.
This is a picture of Mike that I had put up when we changed our pictures around here. And at first, he wanted me to take it down, but now I think he's really started to like it.
When Falcons quarterback Chris Chandler's wife gave birth last week, it made the papers. While at Terrence Mathis's house, 12-day-old Teray received her first one-on-one coverage from Dad.
Hey! As you can see, she's having a bad hair day. When I come home, first place I'm coming is to her. I just want to see her face. There you go. I try not to entertain many phone calls, and I try to spend as much time with them as I can. Football is easy. This is the hard part, making everyone at home happy. And at night, when she wakes up, I'm there. Even though I know I have to go to practice that next morning and deal with my job, but it doesn't bother me because I feel like I can push through that. Not having them around, I can't push through.
I'm here today not to give the answer everybody thought it was.
In Denver, a possible distraction was pushed aside when offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak announced he was turning down all head coaching possibilities to stay with the Broncos.
This year, Gary Kubiak will not be a candidate for any opportunities.
Hell no, I won't go. Hell no, I won't go.
Practice it's always an up-tempo, and we're always going 100% in practice, and I think that's what's got us where we are. So, sure, it's a little bit tougher to get a little motivated knowing we don't play Sunday, but I think that, even though it's tough to practice without a game, it's great. It helps my body a lot, and that extra rest really helps me being around as long as I have.
I could play a lot longer if we played every 2 weeks.
All right, folks, we've got a lot more of those behind-the-scenes moments, so please stick around because later in the show, we'll pick up right where we left off with the next two installments of our Super Bowl diaries. And Howie, I was listening to Matt Millen. I saw a little smile on your face. What about your experience?
You know, it's a 48-hour party. It's euphoric. I cannot describe the feeling that you have after you've won the AFC or the NFC championship game. For me, I was 24 years old. It was my first full year as a starter. I thought we were going to do this thing every year. It was tremendous. And as you can see, the Denver Broncos is kind of business as usual. And Matt Millen in that Atlanta locker room, JB, I can't imagine what that plane flight home was like. See those thousands of fans waiting for them at the airport. Remarkable.
One of the problems I had to be at studies the next day because I was working on my doctorate, in finance, and so it was difficult. Very difficult for me. I don't know what. It's hard.
None of my money.
1, 2, 3, and
he manages here is okay though.
Playing in 4 of them was harder. The 4th one because the Rams.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
Stop it.
You know what? I don't even want to talk about my experience.
You know, I was 22 years old when we won the AFC Championship for the first time. It was Cincinnati's first trip to the Super Bowl, just like it was for Atlanta. And for 3 days, I was Elvis. I'm telling you, wherever we went, needed bodyguards. The whole now after we lost the Super Bowl, I needed bodyguards for a different reason. But those 3 days, among the greatest of my life.
Get your AFC ring on, man.
Terry preparing for his 4th one. We'll be back with more Super Bowl trivia and a tour of Miami with Jason Priestley, as well as Ice Cube, Mac 10, and the Black Crowes, all live in concert. Began construction on a new Miami Youth Center about 15 minutes away from the multi-talented Ice Cube and Mac 10, getting set to get down in front of what is a very attractive-looking crowd. And yes, folks, the music will be strong in just a bit right here on Fox. But meanwhile, across town here at the stadium, we will switch gears and continue our focus on the coverage of Super Bowl 33. Terrell Davis and Jamal Anderson. Now, when you think of these 2 great running backs, 3 things come to mind. No question about it: power, strength, and, well, ignored. You see, coming out of college, a total of 400 players were drafted before Anderson and Davis. And now, well, they're the first 2 non-first-round draft picks to rush for more than 1,700 yards. Maybe that's why the 2 have become such close friends, and it transcends the game. But keep this in mind. One of these guys is going to have bragging rights over the other once this game is over. Suppose somebody came down from Mars, didn't know anything about you guys. What would you tell that Martian about what kind of guy Terrell is, first of all?
Well, they asked me about the people, who do I want to be around? Who do I want to hang around? You want to hang around people who are responsible, who handle themselves well, who can handle themselves in tough situations, who get the job done. You know, people with personality, with dignity, charisma, everything, character. It's simple.
Oh, a tear come out.
TD? I almost got Moy saying that. I love TD.
Makes you 9 foot tall when you're 4'5".
No matter if it's lows or highs, I mean, he's gonna be the same person. He keeps working, hard working. Came from the slums of the 6th and 7th round, like I came from.
Yeah, we came
from
the sewer. The sewer.
Speaking of being drafted, though, so much has been talked about that as well. Is it true that you guys really do kind of keep a free agent's mindset to the way you play the game because you aren't secure? And I find it hard to believe coming from you now, TD, after all you've done.
Yeah, I still hold it. And with me, it's been the edge that has really gotten me to this point. And, I mean, why not? When I step on the field, there's still players and there's still probably maybe some coaches and people up in administration who probably don't think I can play this game. And I think when I go out
now,
I mean, that's just how it is sometimes.
Right, and I think what happens is they try to build up reasons why they didn't draft you. Well, the reason why we didn't take Terrell or Jamal, well, simply because they couldn't da-da-da, you know. Right. And it's like, yeah, now we run. How many yards do we have on your team, you know?
This year, when you played some common opponents, that you called the other and shared with each other what you ought to look out for.
Yeah.
Right.
You can go to your coaches, give you great information about, scouting reports, and you can watch film all you want, but until you hear from another running back who's been in that situation, it gives you just another notch or edge, because he's been there. He knows what's going on inside between the tackles.
I think I helped Terrell a little much, though.
So what are you guys going to do this week then? You can't call each other about each other's team, so what are you going to do?
We're like, good luck. With a wink, you know?
Nah, TD? It's just, I'm a fan. I'm really am a fan of Jamal, and going into this game, it's tough. It's a tough situation, man, because I know right now, we're friends right now, but when the whistle starts, he can't look at me the same way. I can't look at him the same way. I'm be up, get him. Yeah. Get him. So it's going to be a different situation, but when it's all said and done, he's still my man.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys will kiss after the game.
We don't want to controversy.
Chris, I love the playful enthusiasm and personality that Jamal has brought to the league. And, of course, his Dirty Bird dancing has caught on like wildfire, and he's not been fined like an ex-teammate of yours.
Another guy that I used to play with, but really Jamal Anderson is absolutely one of my favorite players. He just has so much fun. He's so loose out there on the football field, and he's even loosened up the National Football League. When I played with a guy named Icky Woods, Icky, when he scored a touchdown, had to do the Icky shuffle behind our bench. The league said he couldn't do it in the end zone. Well, Jamal Anderson's having so much fun doing the Dirty Bird dance, all of a sudden now the league has said, well, it's okay. And then you see his mom doing the Dirty Bird in the stands. Everybody's doing it. It's a lot of fun.
You know, a lot of people are going to question or compare the two running backs. One's more power, Jamal Anderson, than Terrell Davis. And one of the things today, I went out and looked at this field. This field is wet. It's a GN1 grass, a Greg Norman turf, which is up the road a little bit, that was brought in and planted here in this stadium at the price tag of $300,000. But it was brown. I had to overseed it with ryegrass, which means when the sun goes down, this moisture comes up. And I'll tell you, the cleats are 5/8 inches. Don't be surprised when you see slipping and sliding. These players have to change to 3/4 inch cleats. And the last time New England played on grass was November 9th. I believe that was up in New England where they won, Howard, so they can play here and play well.
Yeah, Bill Parcells not a guy who readily throws out accolades. He says there's 5 or 7 truly great players in the NFL. Terrell Davis is one of those 5 to 7 players. This guy rushed for 157 yards in last year's Super Bowl MVP. Missed most of the second quarter because he took his migraine medicine late. This guy is on his way to becoming the most prolific running back in NFL history in postseason play.
I know you time for a little rap flavor.
Rap? Flavor? Yeah. You know what? The commissioner likes rap music. The problem is he waltzes to it.